What happens when a Hollywood legend sits down for what should be a friendly morning chat, and it turns into one of the most uncomfortable moments in live television history? The tension was thick, the questions got personal, and before anyone knew what was happening, Woody Harrelson was out of his chair and walking off the set. Make sure you subscribe and drop a comment below telling us what you think really went wrong here, because this interview went sideways fast. The morning started like any other on the Today Show. The studio lights were bright, the audience was energized, and Woody Harrelson walked onto the set with that trademark laid-back smile everyone knows. He settled into the chair across from host Morgan Hayes, a veteran interviewer known for getting celebrities to open up. The first few minutes were smooth, almost too smooth. They talked about his latest film, a gritty drama about a father reconnecting with his estranged son. Woody was animated, telling stories about filming in rural Montana, joking about the freezing temperatures, and how the crew had to keep hot coffee on standby between every take. Morgan laughed along, nodding at all the right moments. She asked about his co-stars, about the director's vision, about whether he did his own stunts. Standard stuff. Woody answered each question with that easy charm, leaning back in his chair, gesturing with his hands as he painted pictures of life on set. The audience was eating it up. Everything felt natural, comfortable even. But then Morgan shifted gears. "You know, Woody, this film deals with some pretty heavy themes about family and forgiveness," Morgan said, her tone changing just slightly, becoming more probing. "Your character struggles with being absent from his son's life for years. Does that resonate with you personally at all?" There was a brief pause. Woody's smile tightened just a fraction. "Well, I think any parent can relate to the idea of wanting to do better, you know? We all have regrets about moments we wish we could have back." Morgan leaned forward. "But you have been pretty private about your own family life over the years. Is there a reason for that?" "I think everyone deserves privacy," Woody said, his voice still friendly but with an edge creeping in. "Especially kids. They did not choose this life." Of course," Morgan nodded, but she was not backing off. "But you have spoken before about growing up with your own father in and out of your life. That must have shaped how you approached fatherhood yourself." The energy in the studio shifted. You could feel it. Woody's posture changed, straightening up slightly. His hands, which had been relaxed and expressive, now rested more rigidly on the armrests. "I have talked about that, sure," Woody said carefully. "But I think there is a difference between sharing your story on your own terms and having it dissected on live television." Morgan gave a little laugh, trying to lighten the mood. "We are just having a conversation, Woody. Your fans want to know the real you." "The real me is an actor promoting a film," Woody replied, his tone firm now. "That is why I am here." There was an awkward beat of silence. The audience, which had been so lively moments before, was suddenly quiet. Morgan glanced down at her notes, regrouping. "Fair enough," she said, though her expression suggested she was not quite ready to drop it. "Let's talk about the film then. Your character makes some pretty questionable choices throughout the story. Without spoiling anything, did you agree with those choices, or did you find yourself judging him?" Woody relaxed a bit. "That is a good question. I think the beauty of this character is that he is deeply flawed. He makes mistakes, big ones, but he is trying, and I think audiences will see themselves in that struggle. That desire to be better, even when you keep messing up." "So you empathized with him," Morgan pressed. "I empathized with his humanity," Woody said. "I think we all want to believe we can change, that it is never too late to make things right." "Is that something you believe personally?" Morgan asked. "That it is never too late?" And there it was again. That shift from talking about the character to talking about Woody himself. His jaw tightened. "I think we are all works in progress," he said slowly. "But I also think some conversations are better had off camera." Morgan smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. "We are just exploring the themes of your film, Woody. That is what these interviews are for, right? To go deeper." "Deeper into the film, sure," Woody said. "But this is starting to feel like something else." The tension was undeniable now. Morgan looked at him for a long moment, and you could see her making a decision. She could back off, steer the conversation somewhere safer, or she could push forward. She pushed forward. You have been in this industry for decades, Morgan said. You have seen a lot, experienced a lot. There have been controversies, rumors, stories that have followed you. Do you ever feel like you owe your audience an explanation for some of those things? Woody's expression darkened. Owe them an explanation? For what exactly? Well, there have been stories over the years, Morgan said, her voice taking on that faux concerned tone that interviewers use when they are about to dig into something uncomfortable. About your lifestyle choices, about some of the causes you have supported, about comments you have made that rubbed people the wrong way. Rubbed people the wrong way, Woody repeated, his voice flat. That is interesting. I am just saying, you are here promoting a film about redemption and second chances, Morgan continued. Do you feel like you have had to seek redemption for anything in your own life? The studio was dead silent now. Woody stared at Morgan, his expression unreadable. When he spoke, his voice was low and controlled. I came here to talk about a film that a lot of talented people worked very hard on, a film that tells an important story. But instead, you seem more interested in turning this into some kind of confession booth. That is not what I am doing, Morgan said quickly, though her tone suggested she knew exactly what she was doing. Really? Woody asked. Because it sure feels like you have an agenda here. Morgan shifted in her seat, clearly not expecting to be called out so directly. She tried to maintain her composure, that professional smile still plastered on her face, but there was a flicker of something else underneath it. Defensiveness, maybe, or frustration. Woody, I do not have an agenda, she said, her voice taking on a more rehearsed quality. I am asking questions that I think reflect what people want to know. You are a public figure. People are curious about your life, your choices, your beliefs. Curious, Woody said, almost laughing but not quite. Is that what we are calling it now? Because from where I am sitting, it feels like you are trying to bait me into saying something you can turn into a headline. That is absolutely not true, Morgan protested, glancing briefly toward the cameras as if appealing to the audience. We have actors on this show all the time, and we have real conversations with them. Honest conversations. Honest conversations about their work, Woody shot back. Not interrogations about their personal lives disguised as film discussion. The producer off camera was probably having a meltdown at this point. This was live television and things were spiraling. But Morgan was in too deep now to back down gracefully. She took a breath, trying to reset. Okay, let us refocus then, she said, forcing her tone back to something resembling casual. The film. Your character struggles with addiction throughout the story. Was that challenging to portray? It seemed like an olive branch, a way back to safer territory. But Woody was not biting. Why do you want to know? He asked, his eyes locked on hers. Are you asking because you are genuinely interested in the craft of acting? Or are you asking because you want me to tell you about my own experiences with substances? Because I know that has been written about too. Morgan blinked. I am asking about your process as an actor. Are you though? Woody pressed. Because every question you have asked in the last 10 minutes has had this double meaning to it. You ask about the character, but you are really asking about me. You want me to blur those lines so you can get your moment. I think you are reading too much into this, Morgan said, her smile finally cracking. Am I? Woody asked. Because I have been doing this long enough to know when someone is fishing. And you are fishing, Morgan. There was something almost impressive about how the entire interview had flipped. Morgan was supposed to be in control, guiding the conversation, but now she was the one on the defensive. She glanced at her notes again, clearly trying to figure out how to salvage this. Woody, I respect you immensely, she said, switching tactics to flattery. Your body of work speaks for itself. You are one of the most talented actors of your generation. I am just trying to give our audience a chance to connect with you on a deeper level. By ambushing me? Woody asked. I am not ambushing you, Morgan insisted, her voice rising slightly. These are standard interview questions. No, they are not, Woody said firmly. Standard interview questions are about the film, the character, the story we are trying to tell. What you are doing is trying to make me the story. And I am not interested in playing that game. The audience was completely still now. You could hear every word, every breath. This was not entertainment anymore. This was uncomfortable. This was real tension playing out in real time. Morgan took another approach. You know what? You are right. I apologize if my questions made you uncomfortable. That was not my intention. Let us talk about something else. You have been an advocate for environmental causes for years. Can you tell us about what you are working on in that space? Woody laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Now you want to talk about my activism? After spending the first half of this interview trying to pick apart my personal life? I am trying to move forward, Morgan said, her patience clearly wearing thin. By moving to another topic you can twist? Woody asked. Because I know how this works too. You will ask me about environmental issues, and then you will bring up something controversial I said at a rally 5 years ago. And suddenly we are right back to you trying to make me look bad. I would not do that, Morgan said, but her voice lacked conviction. You already have been doing it, Woody said. Every single question has had a hook in it. You are not interested in a conversation. You are interested in a confrontation. Morgan's professional mask was really slipping now. Woody, I have interviewed hundreds of celebrities on this show, and I have never had anyone react like this. Maybe the problem is not with my questions. Maybe the problem is that you do not want to answer them. There it is, Woody said, leaning forward. There is the accusation. I do not want to answer questions, so I must be hiding something. That is what you are implying, right? I am not implying anything, Morgan said sharply, but you are certainly acting defensive. Defensive? Woody repeated. I am defending myself against a host who invited me here under false pretenses. You said this was going to be a fun conversation about the film. Instead, you have spent the entire time trying to psychoanalyze me. I have been doing my job, Morgan countered. Your job is to make guests feel comfortable and help them promote their projects, Woody said. You are doing the opposite. The producers were definitely screaming into Morgan's earpiece at this point. You could almost see her receiving instructions, her eyes darting slightly as she listened to whatever they were telling her. But she was stuck. She could not exactly apologize without admitting she had been out of line, but she also could not keep pushing without making things even worse. I think maybe we got off on the wrong foot here, Morgan said, trying to sound conciliatory but coming off as condescending. Let us take a step back. Your film opens next week. What do you hope audiences take away from it? Woody stared at her for a long moment. You could see him weighing his options, deciding whether to let this go, whether to play along and finish the interview. His jaw was tight, his hands gripping the armrests of his chair. You know what I hope they take away from it? Woody said finally. I hope they see a story about a man trying to do better despite his mistakes. I hope they see the complexity of human relationships and the difficulty of forgiveness. But mostly I hope they judge the film on its own merits and not on whatever narrative you are trying to create here. It was a diplomatic answer, all things considered. But the damage was done. The atmosphere in the studio was poisonous. Morgan nodded slowly, but you could tell she was not satisfied. She wanted more. She wanted the moment that would go viral. The clip that would be replayed on every entertainment show and dissected on social media. And she was not ready to give up on getting it. That is a great answer, she said, though her tone suggested she thought it was anything but. But I think our audience would appreciate some honesty here. You have built your career on playing authentic characters, on bringing truth to every role. So why is it so difficult to bring that same authenticity to this conversation? Woody's expression hardened. You are asking me why I will not perform my personal life for your cameras? Is that really what you are asking right now? I am asking why you came on this show if you were not willing to engage, Morgan said, her voice taking on an edge of irritation. I came here to promote a film, Woody said slowly, like he was explaining something to a child. That is what this was supposed to be. A promotional interview. Not therapy. Not an exposé. Not whatever this has turned into. But you have to understand, Morgan pressed, leaning forward again. Your audience connects with you because they feel like they know you. And when you shut down like this, it feels like you are being inauthentic. Inauthentic? Woody repeated, shaking his head. So now maintaining boundaries is inauthentic. Not wanting to discuss my family, my personal struggles, My private life on national television is somehow dishonest. That is not what I said, Morgan protested. But it is what you meant, Woody countered. You are dressed it up in nice words, but the message is clear. Either I give you what you want, or I am the bad guy. The tension was reaching a breaking point. Morgan's professionalism was slipping further with each exchange. Her frustration was becoming more visible, her responses sharper. I think you are overreacting, she said, and the moment those words left her mouth, you could see she regretted them. Overreacting, Woody said quietly, dangerously. Tell me, Morgan, have you ever had someone sit across from you and pick apart your life choices? Your relationships? Your past mistakes? Have you ever had someone do that to you while cameras broadcast it to millions of people? This is part of being a celebrity, Morgan said defensively. You know that. Being a celebrity means people are interested in my work, Woody said. It does not mean I forfeit my right to privacy. It does not mean I have to subject myself to this. Then why agree to do interviews at all? Morgan asked, her tone turning accusatory. Because most interviewers understand the difference between curiosity and cruelty, Woody shot back. Most interviewers respect their guests enough not to weaponize their questions. Weaponize? Morgan said with a forced laugh. That is dramatic. Is it? Woody asked. Because every question you have asked has been designed to make me uncomfortable, to push me into a corner, to get me to either reveal something I do not want to share or look like I am hiding something. That is not journalism. That is manipulation. Morgan's face flushed. I'm doing my job, Woody. If you cannot handle a few tough questions, maybe you should not be doing publicity. The audience gasped. It was subtle, but it was there. That collective intake of breath that happens when someone crosses a line. Morgan had just told a Hollywood legend, sitting right in front of her, that maybe he should not be doing his job. The disrespect was staggering. Woody sat very still for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was calm, but there was steel underneath it. Tough questions, he said. Is that what you think these are? Because tough questions are about challenging ideas, exploring difficult subjects, pushing for clarity on complex issues. What you have been doing is personal. It is invasive. And honestly, it is beneath you. I do not think you get to tell me how to do my job, Morgan said, her own anger finally breaking through. And I do not think you get to use your job as an excuse to be disrespectful, Woody replied. They were staring at each other now, all pretense of civility gone. This was not an interview anymore. This was a standoff. The crew did not know where to look. The audience was frozen. Even the cameras seemed unsure whether to keep rolling or cut away. Morgan took a breath, trying to regain control of the situation, but her voice came out strained. I think we need to take a commercial break. I think we need to end this, Woody said. We still have 10 minutes left in the segment, Morgan said. Then you are going to have to fill them without me, Woody replied. You are not serious, Morgan said, her eyes widening. I am completely serious, Woody said. This interview is over. Woody, come on, Morgan said, switching to a pleading tone. Do not do this. We can move past this. We can talk about something else. There is nothing else to talk about, Woody said. You made it very clear what kind of conversation you wanted to have, and I am not interested in participating in it. You are being unreasonable, Morgan said, desperation creeping into her voice now. I am being clear about my boundaries, Woody corrected. Something I should have done sooner. Morgan looked around as if appealing to someone off camera to intervene, to somehow save this disaster. But there was nothing anyone could do. The situation had deteriorated too far, too fast. If you walk off this set, it is going to look bad, Morgan said, trying a different tactic. People are going to think you have something to hide. Let them think whatever they want, Woody said, his voice flat. I would rather deal with speculation than sit here and be insulted. I have not insulted you, Morgan protested weakly. You have questioned my integrity, my authenticity, my willingness to be honest, Woody listed off. You have implied I am hiding things, that I am overreacting, that I cannot handle my own career. If that is not insulting, I do not know what is. Morgan opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. She was trapped. She had pushed too hard, And now she was watching the entire interview implode in real time. The producers were probably losing their minds, but there was no way to fix this. Not now. "I am sorry you feel that way," Morgan finally managed. The classic non-apology. "I am sorry you think that is an apology," Woody said, standing up from his chair. The movement was so sudden, so definitive, that it sent a shockwave through the studio. He was actually doing it. He was actually walking off. Morgan stood up too, instinctively, like she could somehow physically prevent this from happening. "Woody, please," she said. "Let us just finish this." "It is finished," Woody said, already reaching up to remove the microphone clip to his shirt. His hands worked quickly, unclipping the small black microphone from his collar and pulling the wire pack from his waistband. A producer rushed onto the set, trying to intervene, but Woody held up a hand to stop them. He was not angry, not yelling, not making a scene. He was just done. Completely, utterly done. "Woody, think about this," Morgan said, her voice cracking slightly. "This is live television. Millions of people are watching." "I know exactly how many people are watching," Woody said, setting the microphone down on the arm of the chair with deliberate care. "And I am fine with them seeing me walk away from a situation that has become disrespectful." "It does not have to be this way," Morgan tried again, her professionalism completely abandoned now. She was just a person, desperate to salvage what was quickly becoming the most disastrous interview of her career. "You are right. It did not have to be this way," Woody agreed. "But you made a choice about what kind of interview this was going to be. And now I am making a choice about whether to stay for it." He turned toward the edge of the set, and Morgan actually reached out as if to grab his arm, then thought better of it, and pulled her hand back. The cameras were still rolling, catching every second of this meltdown. The director was probably screaming into everyone's headsets, trying to figure out whether to cut to commercial, cut to a wide shot, or just let this play out. "What am I supposed to tell people?" Morgan asked, her voice small now. Woody paused, turning back to look at her one last time. "Tell them the truth. Tell them you pushed too hard and your guest decided to leave. Tell them that sometimes people have limits, and you found mine." "I was just doing my job," Morgan said. Again, like a mantra she was trying to convince herself of. "Your job is to make guests feel welcome, not cornered," Woody said. "Your job is to facilitate conversation, not confrontation. But you lost sight of that somewhere along the way." A stage manager was hovering nearby, unsure whether to intervene or stay out of it. The audience sat in complete silence, watching this unprecedented moment unfold before them. Some had their phones out, already recording. This was going to be everywhere within the hour. "I did not mean for it to go like this," Morgan said, and for the first time she actually sounded genuine. "I really did not." "Maybe not," Woody said, "but intent does not erase impact. You made me uncomfortable in my own skin sitting here, and that is not something I am going to continue to subject myself to just because there are cameras on us." He took a step toward the exit, and Morgan made one last desperate attempt. "The film, Woody. Think about the film. Think about all the people who worked on it. Do not you want to give it the best chance?" It was a low blow, trying to use his colleagues and their hard work as leverage to keep him in that chair. Woody stopped and looked at her with something that might have been disappointment. "The film will speak for itself," he said quietly. "It does not need me to sit here and be interrogated to succeed. And if it does, then we have bigger problems than one interview going badly." "People are going to judge you for this," Morgan said, switching tactics one more time. "They are going to say you cannot handle pressure, that you are difficult, that you are a diva." "Let them," Woody said with a shrug. "I have been in this business long enough to know that people are going to think what they want to think, regardless of what I do. I would rather be judged for standing up for myself than for sitting here and taking whatever you want to throw at me." Morgan's face was flushed now, a mix of embarrassment and anger, and something else. Maybe shame. She knew she had mishandled this. She knew that when people watched this back, They were not going to be on her side. But she was in too deep to admit it, too invested in defending her choices. "You are making a mistake," she said, her voice hardening again. "The only mistake I made was not walking out 10 minutes ago," Woody replied. And with that, he turned and walked off the set. Just walked right off. No dramatic exit, no slamming doors, no shouting. He just left. The cameras followed him for a few steps before cutting back to Morgan, who stood there frozen, her carefully constructed interview in ruins around her. She looked at the camera, then at the audience, then back at the camera. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. A producer rushed up to her, whispering urgently in her ear. She nodded mechanically, her face still showing the shock of what had just happened. "We are going to take a quick break," she finally managed to say, her voice hollow. "We will be right back." But nobody was thinking about what would come after the break. Everyone was thinking about what they had just witnessed. A complete breakdown of the typical celebrity interview format. A guest who refused to play along with the game. A host who pushed too far and paid the price for it. The thing is, this was not about Woody being difficult or temperamental. This was about respect. This was about the line between public interest and private life. This was about an actor who came to talk about his work, and found himself instead defending his character, his choices, his entire existence. And when it became clear that the interview was never going to be what it was supposed to be, he made the only choice that made sense to him. He left. You could argue about whether he should have pushed through, whether he should have laughed it off, whether he should have just given Morgan what she wanted. But the reality is, nobody should have to sit in a chair and be made to feel small just because there are cameras on them. Nobody should have to sacrifice their dignity for publicity. And Woody Harrelson, in that moment, decided his dignity was worth more than the interview. The footage of him walking off spread like wildfire. People debated it, analyzed it, took sides. Some said he overreacted. Others said Morgan was out of line. But what nobody could argue with was that it was real. In an age of manufactured moments and scripted responses, this was genuinely unscripted. This was a person reaching their limit and acting on it. And maybe that is the most important part of this story. Not the conflict, not the drama, not the spectacle of it all, but the simple fact that sometimes walking away is the right choice. Sometimes protecting yourself matters more than protecting an image. Sometimes you have to draw a line and refuse to let anyone cross it, no matter who is watching. So what do you think? Was Woody right to walk off, or should he have stayed and finished the interview? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure you hit that subscribe button, because we have got plenty more stories like this coming your way. Let us know, did Morgan cross a line or was Woody being too sensitive?